Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and this is my Bookish week for Sunday, March 17th. I know I got it right. I did get it right. I'm going to try to adjust here a little bit. This is I'm in a weird angle. I think that's a little better. I don't know. It's good enough. So, what am I doing today? Did I finish anything? No. Am I reading a bunch of stuff? Yes. Same stuff as before. I didn't add anything new. So what am I going to do today? What I decided to do today is I'm going to finish my Q&A answers, and I'm going to answer questions from other booktubers. I thought this would be really fun to break it out that way. And every booktuber that I mention, I will link down below in the description box. So let's get going. This one I think is the longest group of questions that I had. Yeah, I think it probably is. And there is yet another one of the best questions of all times at the very end. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. The first question is from Priscilla at Evening Reader, and she asked, what book do you wish you could read again for the first time? Are there any books you picked up because of BookTube FOMO that you wish you'd never read? There are not a lot of books that I look back on and say, ooh, I wish I could read that again for the first time. But one book that kind of jumped into my mind is Ahab's Wife by Sina Jeter Naslund. This book is beautiful and long and descriptive, and I read it many years ago, and we read it in my In Real Life book club, The Critical Chicks, and it was the longest discussion I believe we've ever had. I think that still holds the record, and it was many years ago. I really, really, really want to reread it, but that's probably the book that comes closest to I wish I could read it again for the first time. And what book did I pick up because of BookTube FOMO? This was so frickin' easy. 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. One of the fucking worst books I've ever read. One of the worst marketed books I've ever seen. So disappointing, so poorly done. Just an awful book, nothing like it was supposed to be, nor was it anything like I was told it was going to be. I hated it. Absolutely detest that book. The next question is from Heidi at My Reading Life. What is your favorite movie and TV show from your teen years? Heidi and I are children of the 80s. I was a teenager in the 80s. I love all the 80s movies. Anything with Molly Ringwald, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink I loved. All of those movies. I look back, some of them I've watched over again and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I like this movie, but it's the nostalgia. The TV lineup was way more important when I was young, and Tuesday night was the premier TV lineup. There were Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley. I think Three's Company may have been on Tuesday nights too. Maybe not. Was it? I don't remember, but I know that it was Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, and then The Love Boat and Fantasy Island. My ultimate favorite night of TV. It was awesome. James Rushala at Quaint and Curious Volumes asked, what are the best and worst states in New England? This could get me in so much trouble. I live in New Hampshire, and I would not claim New Hampshire as the best state in New England. Now, however, it's going to depend on what you're looking for. There are many states in New England, and each of them can offer something wonderful, and each have their bad sides, good side and bad side. New Hampshire is awesome if you're an outdoors person. Mountains, ocean, hiking, skiing, beaches. There's so many outdoor things to do in New Hampshire. New Hampshire has North Conway and Jackson and Bartlett. It's like ski country, snow, even farther, especially farther north. So if you like to ski, New Hampshire is a great state. Mount Washington, Massachusetts is probably the smartest state in the nation, has the best medical care, has just the most history, clearly. Massachusetts and New Hampshire are quite different politically. So if you're a liberal, Massachusetts is your state. If you're a conservative, New Hampshire is your state. Maine, if you're a conservative, is a good state for you. Maine has beautiful landscape, ocean, Maine is absolutely beautiful, and you want lobster, you go to Maine. You want seafood, you go to Maine. Maine has everything. Again, oceans, mountains, hiking, lakes, ocean, water, lakes, ocean. I'm a water lover. But Maine is quite beautiful. And there's also Portland, Maine for a city atmosphere, a small city atmosphere. There's a lot to do. And Maine is a huge state. Vermont, if you are liberal and love green, then Vermont is your state. It's a beautiful state. It's very, the premier destination in the autumn to watch the leaves changing. It's a very beautiful state. I love Brattleboro, Vermont. There's some really awesome bookstores there, small bookstores. Let's see. Rhode Island is a tiny state. If you love mansions and want to tour Newport, Rhode Island, that's for you. Providence, Rhode Island is a heck of a lot of fun. What else? What else is in New England? What am I missing? Delaware? Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. There's a state I'm missing, and it's going to be embarrassing when I think of it. But again, I can't say what the best and the worst is. I would probably be quite happy to move out of New Hampshire and back in. I used to live in Massachusetts, but I'm not willing to move that far away from my daughter and my granddaughter and my family. So yeah, New England is a great area of the country for outdoors, for culture, for history, for medical care, for education. We've got it all. We really do. Let's see. Terri Klein at TK Talks Books asked, for how long have you been creating content for BookTube? I have been on BookTube about 4 years, and the first year was quite embarrassing. Please don't go back and watch those videos. It was really embarrassing. But it didn't take me long to get my footing and to get comfortable about my style and what I wanted to talk about and how I wanted to talk about it. But 4 years and I'm still having a really good time. Oh, let's see. What else? She asked, best travel experience ever. I'm not a traveler, and I have not been to very many places. I went to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, to a resort vacation when I was 20, and it was fun, but I was 20. So there was a lot of drinking involved. There was a lot of tequila, and it was on like a Holiday Inn resort, so there wasn't a lot of culture. And I've been to Tacoma, Washington for my brother's wedding. I've not really traveled, and I have bucket list locations: Ireland, Scotland, Wales. I'd love to go to Vancouver, Canada. I'd love to visit Canada. I've never been to Canada. But yeah, I'm not really a traveler. I don't love to travel. I am a homebody. I love to be at home. I'm good with that. I would love to visit Britta in Cologne, Germany, though. Let's see. Hannah at Hannah's Books. I would love to hear about a favorite bookstore experience, either the place itself, something that happened there, or even a story about finding a book there that has come to mean a lot to you. Oh, there's so many, so many experiences. I went to UMass in Amherst, Mass for a total of 1.5 years. But while I was there is a street with bookstore after bookstore after bookstore after bookstore. And I haven't been back there for decades, and I don't know if it's the same. But I used to just go from store to store. I would take a Saturday, and all by myself, I would just spend hours in the bookstores. I would get breakfast or grab a bagel or just roam, and it was beautiful. What else? If you've watched my last video, I'm back working in Newburyport, Mass, which is the town next to the town I grew up in. And Newburyport, Mass has a bookstore called Jabberwocky Books, which I shopped in when I was a teenager, and it's still there. It's a 50-year-old bookstore, women-owned, women-run. And I walked in there last week and almost got choked up. I actually have been in there a couple times so far, but I almost got choked up because it's such a beautiful bookstore and I loved it. Let's see. Angelia at Read and Reread. Do you have a dream vacation, bookish or otherwise, that you'd love to take someday? I think I talked about this in my last video too. Hey on Wye in Wales. Hobart Book Village in upstate New York. That one I will do. There's a book village in the Catskills, Hobart, New York. that is just a town of books. I'll drive there. I can drive. It's probably 6, 7, 8 hours. I will drive there to go and make it a weekend or something like that. I also want to go back to New York City and go to do a bookstore tour, and I want to do a bookstore crawl in Boston. Boston has some fantastic bookstores, and I would love to do that. Let's see, Britta, at Britta Bowler, The Second Shelf. As for the question, I would love to know how you came to love George Eliot. Let's see, George Eliot's Middlemarch was, I believe, the first buddy read I did with Alba from Seriella. She's not creating content right now, but it was my first buddy read? I think it might have been my first buddy read of all time. And I did a buddy read with Britta. That may have been my second. I don't remember. But Middlemarch was a very early buddy read. And it was my first George Eliot, besides Silas Marner, which I read in high school. Didn't remember a dang thing. But I read Middlemarch and literally fell in love. George Eliot is a realist. She's a realist fiction writer, and I am a realist, and I absolutely love her style. I love everything I learned about her. I love just the realism in her fiction. And I really relate to that. And it was an instant connection, absolute instant connection. And once I read Middlemarch, Alba and I also read Daniel Deronda together later that same year. I fell in love all over again. And then after that, I just did a George Eliot reading project, and I read all of her novels, stayed in love, and then started to read biographies and started to read nonfiction about her. And I'm enraptured. I adore her. I have a picture of her on my wall, which I will put here on the screen because I love her so much. And that's pretty much my George Eliot process. David Novak Reads Poetry asked, do you ever read cookbooks that you don't expect to cook from? Do you mostly return to a cookbook for old things or constantly try out something new? Do you have any favorite online sources for recipes? I have a bunch of cookbooks, but I don't collect them. And they've sat there for years. I usually get my recipes online, unless it's something very basic. I do have 2 cookbooks that I've done repeat recipes, but I no longer really have to go back and look at them anymore. But I like allrecipes.com, and I look for a lot of gluten-free recipes, especially for baking, because my husband has celiac. And so there's so many resources online that's primarily where I get my recipes from and my new ideas. I'll look up vegetarian meals for my daughter. I'll look up high protein meals. I'll look up meals for gastric bypass survivors, that type of thing. Shaun at Shaun Stevenson Books asked, what was the first book you remember reading on your own as a kid? The Trixie Belden Mysteries, but I read those, I was probably in 2nd or 3rd grade. I was reading before that, but I just don't remember what those books were. Trixie Belden Mysteries, I think I talked about this in my last video as well, but I loved those books. And I tried to collect all of them and read every one in the series. I don't remember how many I had. Excuse me. But it was an alternate to Nancy Drew, and I absolutely love Trixie Belden. Let's see. Hannah Greendale at Hello Bookworm asked, what upcoming books from small publishers are you most excited to read? A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro and The Wall, and I forgot to go and grab the books, so I don't remember the author, but I will put a picture here. That one I may be getting to very soon because I can't wait to read that one. And I will put the translators and the presses on the screen when I post the pictures of the book. But I've got so many books from small independent publishers and so many translated novels. Sorry, getting scratchy. But there's so many I'm looking forward to. And some of those are short enough so that I was going to try to read them sooner rather than later to fill in with some of the longer books I'm reading. And I will get to them. Shelly at Shelly Swearingen asks, favorite snack and favorite time to read. Favorite snack. I don't combine the two. I almost never eat and read at the same time. Once in a while I'll have something to drink. But if I'm reading, I'm like in the zone and I'm not thinking of food and water, food and beverage. I don't know why. But favorite snack? That is a really hard one. Oh, one of my favorite things to eat is I buy a low sugar vanilla yogurt, and I will totally defeats the purpose, but I will add mini chocolate chips to it. And I will use, there's a cracker, it's a Breton. The Breton is the brand name, and it's a sesame cracker. And they're very soft, like very crumbly, but I use those to dip into the yogurt with chocolate chips. It's so stupid to listen to myself talk about low sugar yogurt and adding chocolate chips to it. Pat at Book Chat with Pat asks, do you have a daughter? And I know you have a daughter and at least one grandchild. What are your favorite children's books that you have shared with your family? I love classic children's books, and sometimes they can be problematic, but one of my favorites is The Snowy Day. Another one is Caps for Sale. The Sandra Boynton board books. We always buy my granddaughter baby board books. And I love the older ones. I always will review those books to make sure nothing is that offensive or just absolutely wrong. But one of my favorite children's books of all time is Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. Absolutely love that book. She also asks, how did you first come to read and love Middlemarch? I actually just talked about that question. I think I first discovered you in a video about Mental Health May. Do you have favorite books in the area of psychology and mental health? Yes. Darkness Visible by William Styron is one of the best books I've ever read on depression, major depression. It's a very slim memoir. Go and check it out. I loved it. Unquiet Mind by Kay Redfield Jamison. She discovered she had bipolar disorder, and she's a doctor. She was a professor and just got a diagnosis after, much of her life wondering what is going on with me. And then another one is Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. That's one of the best books on grief. And after losing her husband shockingly and suddenly, she went into a year of processing grief, and it's a spectacular book. Jolene at Bookworm Adventure Girl. Favorite book to movie adaptations? Lord of the Rings. I also love Outlander. That's a Starz miniseries adaptation. Absolutely love it. Book you would like to be made into a film. Damn, somebody needs to remake Middlemarch. There's a miniseries of Middlemarch that sucks, and it's somebody out there, remake Middlemarch, a limited series. Do it. Let's see. Who would star as the main characters? I have no idea. What are some things you wish you knew when you were just starting out on BookTube? Favorite beverage, and of course, favorite pizza topping or type of pizza. Along with Middlemarch, I really want somebody to redo Wuthering Heights. There's so many versions of Wuthering Heights. They're all bad. I really want somebody to do a Wuthering Heights that is so true to the book and has actors that are the same ages as the characters are supposed to be. Okay. What are some of the things you wish you knew when you were just starting out on BookTube? Wow, so much. I wish I had taken seriously the advice to be yourself. At first, I was trying to do everything everybody else was doing. I was trying to copy their style. I was trying to do what I thought I should do. And it was difficult because I wasn't being true to myself and I wasn't reading the way I wanted to read. I also wish somebody had told me how strong the FOMO is and how easy it is to get sucked into overbooking my schedule. That was really difficult to deal with. And favorite beverage, and of course, favorite pizza. Favorite beverage, most of what I drink right now is water. I like Crystal Light. I used to love coffee, and I've just started to get back into decaf coffee because after gastric bypass, you don't really want to drink caffeine anymore because it can exacerbate your belly. So I'm really getting back into decaf coffee. Let's see, favorite pizza. I love a thin crust margarita pizza. Very basic, but I love it when it's really freshly made, real mozzarella, basil, and real tomatoey tomato sauce. Absolutely love it. Marilyn at Marilyn Maya Mendoza. Is there something you want to accomplish in the next 5 years, either book-related or personally? I don't set goals for, 5 years, 10 years down the road. 10 years, I hope I'm freaking retired. Who knows if that's going to happen. Bookishly, I want to read War and Peace. Actually, I want to read War and Peace and Moby Dick. And check those off my bookish bucket list. Sarah at Eyes on Indie. What one question do you wish somebody would ask but no one has yet? A hobby or topic you love talking about? Books or non-book related? I've talked about this in other videos, and I mean, people have watched me long enough. You've heard about my background, but I'd love to talk more about being comfortable on BookTube and being comfortable presenting information, creating content. I love public speaking. I love getting behind a microphone. And I used to preach. I used to be a pastor. I used to be a conference speaker. Loved it. And I discovered that I love public speaking back when I was getting my bachelor's degree, and we needed to present, we needed to create a PowerPoint presentation and present it to the class. And it had to be a long, like a 1-hour presentation. And I actually picked a book. I actually picked An Unquiet Mind by K. Redfield Jameson to talk about depression. And I got up there in front of the class and loved it. I was a big hit and I loved it. So I would love to have somebody ask about public speaking and kind of learning that skill and getting more comfortable, but I absolutely love it. Freddie at Sluggish Reader. What cuisine do you really, really, really want to try? I have never had Indian food, and I would love to try Indian food. I live near a town that has some amazing Indian restaurants, and I've never been to them. I would love to try Indian food. I've read so many books that talk about the ingredients, and I think I would love it. I have one more question, and this is one of the best questions of all time. And this is from John David of the channel John David. How do you deal with being the most fabulous person on BookTube? Is it a burden being so iconic? Yes, actually, it is quite a heavy burden being such an icon on BookTube. I can't even finish it with a straight face. John David. This made me crack up laughing, and you knew you were going to do that. You knew you were going to make me crack up laughing. Batten down the hatches, because come hell or high water, I will get down to Texas to hang out with you, and we will do our bookish stuff, and I will get down there. I swear to you, I will do it. Now I got to visit Judy, and I got to visit you, and I got to visit my brother, so I need to plan quite a bit of time. But thank you for calling me a BookTube icon. Wait, a fabulous BookTube icon. I love it. I love ya. I'll talk to you soon. And thank you everybody else for watching. Thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate your support over the last 4 years. And thank you so much for bumping up my subscriber count. Over 2,000 people. That's why I started this whole Q&A project. So if you've gotten to the end of this very long video, thank you so much. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Bye.